This program is brought to you by UCKG.
Hello and welcome to another informative episode of A Different Kind of Woman. A Different Kind of Woman is interested in the world around her, and today's show is Alzheimer's Epidemic. And we are aware that Alzheimer's is not a contagious disease. However, experts warn that by 2050, 100 million people will be battling the disease. Those are alarming statistics. Losing our minds to senile dementia or to Alzheimer's seems to be a fear that many share. But what can we do to delay the symptoms? What can be done to make lives better for those that are suffering? Let's take a look at what's coming up next on the show. Next, we're going to find out what people on the streets of London think with Anna Maria.
You know, it's something that's increasing. Why is it increasing? You know, what can we do about it?
We'll debate the topic with the red and green card game.
Concerning unhealthy diet, I cannot be a hypocrite and say that I only eat healthy. So I know that there are certain things that I need to start avoiding more.
Take a look at a very moving film, Still Alice.
When people have cancer, they wear pink ribbons for you and go on long walks and raise money, and you don't have to feel like some kind of a social... I can't remember the word.
And later, we'll be welcoming documentary filmmaker Felicity Mangovan to the studio.
And then there's the kind of final stage, but it's not, an official stage. Mm-hmm. But we have a premiere, so that's where all the family and friends come together.
Nice. Yeah.
And they watch the film, and there's a little celebration. There's a few nibbles and drinks and stuff, and that's the best moment.
So obviously I'm not discussing the topic alone. Joining me today is the creative Kim. Hi Kim, welcome. The heartwarming Raquel.
Oh, thank you.
She's really heartwarming. And the determined Diane. Woman full of determination. I love it. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
So Alzheimer's disease will soon become a public health crisis. Experts warn that the number of people affected by the disease grew by 10 million over the last decade, and between now and 2050, that figure will grow from 36 million to 160 million people. That's alarming. Most people aren't diagnosed with Alzheimer's until 65. But now that people are living longer, more are living with the disease. And scientists say that resources must be directed to preventing the onset of disease. Now, ladies, how do you think this modern lifestyle that we live is contributing to people having Alzheimer's disease?
Well, I was doing some researches about the topic, and I could see that there are some things that you cannot, let's say, avoid. For example, your genetic, if many family members have, you probably have the tendency to have, and so on. But I could also, because I was a bit, as I was reading this point, I was like, oh my God, it's like something that there's nothing you can do. But that's not true. In reality, your diet, the way you decide to live your life, and, some decisions you make, you can do help yourself and avoid this problem.
I think I agree with Raquel. I think a lot as well, a lot of people are taking drugs, and that long-term affects your memory, and I think that can have a contribution to your memory loss as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
When you're like, if you're like me at home, you kind of know what symptoms Alzheimer's has, like people lose their memory. But I didn't know what caused it. I didn't know what was the reason behind it. So when I knew that we were going to do the show, I read up a little bit about it. And Alzheimer's actually is caused by your brain cells dying. So the disease comes, they say that there's no, they haven't figured out what causes the brain cells to die. But you have the disease because your cells start dying, the brain cells start dying, and also the connections between the cells. I know I'm a geek, I love this information, so bear with me, I have to say it. The connections between the cells starts to get lost, and so yeah, it causes problems in your brain. Now, when you think about it, if it's to do with your brain health, I think there's a lot that our modern lifestyle does to kind of affect our brain health. Like you said, some of the things that our lifestyle has introduced. I mean, if we compare ourselves to people who used to live, well, the Stone Ages is a long time ago, but even, like 100 years before us, they never had ready-made meals that had to be preserved with a lot of chemicals. They never had, these loads of products that we have today. Our lifestyle is busy nowadays, so no one has time to kind of like, cook all natural and eat food that's organic. So even now, even the produce that we're eating, even though you may kind of prepare your meals at home, but that produce is not necessarily free of chemicals and drugs, and that's not a problem that they had a few years ago. And I think that may be the contributing factor of our modern lifestyle to the growth of Alzheimer's, right? But before we delve into this conversation, as you know, we're going to have a lot to say today. Let's hear what the people on the streets of London think with Anna Maria.
What do you think can be done to improve the lives of Alzheimer's and dementia sufferers?
I think we should have like more often tests to test if you have like a beginning of this disease.
See, if I get taught or learn about dementia and Alzheimer's, then obviously I'll be able to know what to do to improve dementia and Alzheimer's.
Research, number one. There's so much money going into, I find, cancer research, and without, knocking it, because, I have family who've suffered from both things, my preference would be to give my money to dementia, because it's something that's increasing. Why is it increasing? What can we do about it? So I think more money into research.
I think spreading awareness to people around everyone, because I don't know much, so if more people know something, more can be done, really.
What deterioration are you most afraid of in your older years?
Losing my intelligence and not being able to know what to do. Like, I know the retirement age is going to go higher as I grow older, so I don't really want to be working not knowing what I'm doing or not having the right set of mind.
I wouldn't recognize who is my loved people, my family, and that's something that I'm really scared about, because, as I said, I have family with the same problems, so...
I'm losing my legs and my sight, because obviously that's what I use every day.
I think I'd have to say two things. Firstly, I think, deterioration of the mind, that's always a scary one, especially seeing so much of it happen around me at a rate that seems to be increasing so quickly, And secondly, I think just... movement, being able to move. I'm a person who loves to dance and to move and to exercise, so that scares me a little bit too.
Do you have a question for our panel?
On these programs, I saw them talking about, preventative measures, things you can do to keep your mind stimulated, things you can do, to just basically keep your brain ticking over for longer and to be more active. And I just think we need to do more of that. How are we going to do that? How are we going to get the message out there? How are we going to educate people? Where are we going to get the money from to do it?
Yeah, you have some good questions for us, but that's a whole big responsibility that you're placing on us. I wish I had all the answers that you're posing to us. But yeah, how is it that we're going to get the message across? I think us doing this show is part of our responsibility to get the message across, isn't it? Yeah. And I think she did, the last person who spoke asked the question, what preventative measures should be taken? So what do you think we should do to kind of prevent ourselves from developing this disease?
I think the main thing is At the moment, with Alzheimer's and dementia, there's a lot of information out there because people are afraid. People are afraid of losing their mind. And I think for myself, I can't think of anything worse than losing my mind. You know, there's things you can lose like limbs and stuff, but losing your mind. I think for people need to become aware, and there's so much information out there. It's a topic for the government too, and there's a lot of information. I think that's something we can really dig into in this show, and we can start talking about that.
Yeah, I think this would be one of the main, let's say, the start point is for you to start doing some researches, because as you see, many of them said, I don't really know how to prevent, I don't really know much about it, and usually we tend to believe that it's just something that you have nothing, there is nothing you can do, you know, but as you do some researches, you can see already that you can start doing things to change, you know, your lifestyle and maybe minimize the chances of having this sickness.
Yeah, I think research overall is the key, but I think keeping your mind active, like you see older people when they're exercising and things like that, you can see how supple their joints are, you know, you can tell that they're doing something. Like my mum, for instance, she does puzzles all the time, like 1,000 pieces of puzzles, and you know, the word puzzles and the number puzzles, so she's always keeping her mind active, and I think that helps a lot.
That's true.
Yeah, I think if we're going to change the world, the best thing to do is change our world first, right?
Yeah.
So if we can start living the kind of lifestyle that we and extend it to our families, obviously, the kind of lifestyle that will reduce the risk factors of Alzheimer's, I think that's the beginning of changing the world, just changing your small corner of the world. So if everybody else took a responsibility for themselves to kind of minimize the risk factors and live a healthy lifestyle and make sure that they can do whatever is possible to minimize the risks, I think that goes a lot further, because it's easy to place responsibility on other people, but quite hard when that responsibility lies with us and we have to control our diets. So now, speaking of risk factors, we're going to play the red and green card game, because we want to know how good you guys are with these risk factors that kind of contribute to Alzheimer's. So we have the first question. Another risk is not exercising enough. So do you guys exercise regularly?
Well, now, proudly, I would say yes. Before, I would maybe say no. But this is something I'm trying to bring to my life and become a habit. And we know that it is helpful for many, many things in our life. So I would say yes.
I'm kind of yes and no. I do an hour swimming each week.
Swimming, I love that.
Good.
And I could walk more, but I don't walk as I like driving. But I've started my swimming, so that's my
really
start.
good as well.
But I only do an hour once a week.
That's excellent. An hour's excellent. It's better than nothing at all. So I'm on the fence like Jennifer used to be.
No, on the fence, and we miss you, Jennifer. No being on the fence.
At the moment, I'm not really doing any exercise. I'm doing a lot of walking. I consciously walk, but because I've got a pulled muscle, there's no exercise happening at all, really. So I do a lot of walking. So that's why I'm saying I'm on the fence at the moment.
So you do exercise, but not the kind that people are used to. That's still exercise.
It's right, but it's not brisk walking, but it's
you're getting there.
Yeah, it's helping.
And do you have a healthy diet?
Why everyone's looking at me like waiting? Now I need to confess my sins. I would say yes, but concerning unhealthy diet, I cannot be a hypocrite and say that I only eat healthy. So I know that there are certain things that I need to start avoiding more. You know, sometimes in that moment where you don't have anything healthy to eat, and then you just go for a junk food sometimes. So I'm like her, you know.
Yeah. What about you two?
I'm on the fence.
Yeah, I think we're all on the fence.
I do eat healthy things.
Yes.
But I don't eat healthy things all the time.
Yeah.
So as you said, I would be a hypocrite if I said I eat healthy all the time. I eat healthy things sometimes.
Yeah. My diet is very, very healthy. I mean, like everybody else, I think I don't always eat healthy things, but that's more of an exception for me, to be honest. But there's a way that you can make up. For example, if you're not getting most of the nutrients from what you eat, you know that we can take supplements, like natural supplements, not necessarily drugs or hormones, but natural supplements like your vitamins that will kind of make up for the nutrients that you're missing from food. So is supplements something that you guys have experimented with? Do you take supplements?
I would say no. This is something I want to
say no. I forget.
I want to add in my life. Mati, you a good girl, you know.
I've had issues that have led me to have to do that. But yeah, I do take supplements, and one of the most, I mean, here in England, the biggest problem is we lack sun, right? So most of the population in England is missing vitamin D. So that's where you should begin. If you're ever wondering what supplements, I think vitamin D is your likely supplement because we don't have a lot of sun here.
I went to the doctors and they gave me vitamin D, but it was such a strong tablet that I could only take one a week because I was lacking so much vitamin D, and I saw the difference in my skin, in my energy. It's amazing that I've stopped them now, but I so much want to take them all the time because I just saw a complete change. So I'm thinking maybe when like the winter comes back, I might myself do a vitamin D supplement. Yeah, I
mean, if your nutrition is good and you can get all those vitamins that you eat naturally from the food that you take, it's good, but that's not always the case. And so supplements are a good option. And we've run out of time we had more questions for you. We wanted to put you on the spot more, but we've run out of time for our red and green card game. So we're going to go for a break. And after the break, we're going to continue more with this serious topic and hopefully with more information.
This program is brought to you by UCKG. This program is brought to you by UCKG.
So on today's show, Alzheimer's Epidemic, we've been looking at what we can do to prevent or alleviate some of the symptoms or some of the preventative measures that we used can actually be used as well, that we mentioned, can be used to alleviate symptoms for those who already have the disease. So we've been looking at what we can do to prevent and alleviate symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. And in 2014, Julianne Moore won an Oscar for her performance in a moving film about Alice, who's a linguistic professor, and her family when she is diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Take a look at these clips.
When I was a little girl, like in second grade, my teacher told me that butterflies don't live very long time, that they live like a month or something. And I was so upset, and I went home and I told my mother, and she said, yeah, but you know, they have a nice life. They have a really beautiful life. So, you know, it always makes me think about my mother's life and my sister's life, and to a certain extent, you know, my own.
You are going to be around for a long time,
Yes.
What's it like? Like, what does it actually feel like?
Well, it's not always the same. You know, I have good days, bad days, and on my good days, I can, you know, almost pass for a normal person. But on my bad days, I feel like I can't find myself. I've always been so defined by my intellect, my language, my articulation, and now sometimes I can see the words hanging in front of me and I can't reach them, and I don't know who I am, and I don't know what I'm going to lose next.
Sounds horrible.
Thanks for asking.
Wow, that's a moving situation, right? Imagine being in a position where you are diagnosed with such a terrifying disease and having to share that with your family. She was sharing, in the scene that we watched, she was sharing it with her daughter. I thought she did it in a very interesting way. And if that were to happen, I don't want any of that to happen, so it sounds weird me asking you, but if that were to happen to you, how would you share with your family, or rather, what advice would you give to someone who's having to share that with their family members?
Where do you start?
Yeah.
You know, where do you start to say you're losing your mind, basically? I know you're my daughter, but I might not remember you in a few years' time. How do you break that news to somebody? You know, just generally going through life, sometimes when you walk into the kitchen and you think, what did I come in here for? And you know, it's a sense of feeling out of control, but to be told that you are going to actually not be able to control your mind, it's...
I think the person really needs to have at least the security that she or he has someone there for her, you know, because when, as she said, you are losing your mind, you know that you might not have control over things. So when you have at least this comfort that I have someone to take care of me, I have people to give me support, you know, when you pass this, let's say, security to the person, somehow I believe it might help the person to take it in.
Yeah, I think looking at the characters that we watched, she was very candid and open with her daughter, and so for me I think that's key, right? Sometimes when we kind of deal with situations that are terrifying, we want to push them at the back of our minds, we don't want to think about them, so you kind of have this diagnosis and you want to, you know, just pretend you haven't been dealt with this diagnosis and put it behind. But she was very candid with her daughter, and I think before the symptoms start to progress, I think that's such a important part of your life for you to kind of reassure them of, for example, I mean, knowing, we're talking about from the point of view of the person who has the disease. So you know that in a few years' time, or I don't know, a few months' time, however long it's going to take, I'm not going to be able to remember you, but you can spend as much time as you can with your family, reassuring them of the important things, so that when the time comes, they will have those memories of you kind of reassuring them, and it will help them help you as well deal with the situation. I hope that makes sense.
What you said did make perfect sense. I think it's a case of taking each day as it comes and taking one day at a time. And I think it's important for the family to know that once you've got the diagnosis, you're there to support them. And the person shouldn't have to be worried about how it's going to affect their family too much. I think they need to concentrate on, what am I going to do to make the most of my life, the things that I can do. And I think the things that you can do, I think you should enjoy them and make the best of the things that you can do, and not worry too much about the future, because the future's the future, but we're living now, and let's enjoy today.
But they're still going to have that at the back of their mind, aren't they? Regardless of, you know, I'm reassuring you, we'll be there for you, etc. But it's happening to that person, isn't it? So they're still going to feel that insecurity somewhere along the line.
Yeah, these are hard questions, but we have another clip for you to pose yet another question for you. These questions are there to get us thinking, right? To kind of help us prepare for the unpreparable, rather. So let's look at the next clip.
Hi.
Alice, where the hell were you?
Went for a run.
You've been gone for over 2 hours. I was worried about you.
Well, then I went to Pinkberry.
You went to Pinkberry?
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that, because you completely blew our dinner plans. Susan Kirby and her husband?
I'm sorry, I forgot. I have Alzheimer's.
I texted you. I emailed you. There are ways to manage things.
I said I was sorry.
She's the chair of my department, for crying out loud. I had absolutely no idea where you were if something happened to you. Why didn't you bring your phone?
I told you, I can't when I'm running.
Why don't you wear a fanny pack? Is it really that inhibiting?
Yes. I hate this is happening to me.
I hate it too. But we have to keep the important things in our life going. We have to try or we're going to go crazy.
I know, John. I am sorry, but I don't know what I would have been like at a dinner party. I might not be able to remember names or answer simple questions. I mean, never mind get through an anecdote.
I think you're doing great recently.
Relative to what? I wish I had cancer.
Don't say that.
No, I do. I mean it. I mean, I wouldn't feel so ashamed. When people have cancer, they wear pink ribbons for you and go on long walks and raise money, and you don't have to feel like some kind of a social... I can't remember the word.
Yeah, another moving clip. These clips kind of help us walk through the shoes of someone who's going through this disease, isn't it? And it's very alarming. Now, she seemed embarrassed to be among family members and have them know about what she's going through and about how the disease is affecting her. Do you think that that would be something that you would struggle with, where you're faced with the disease?
You know, while she was speaking, I could see, and she at the end, she wanted to say a word and she couldn't remember. Usually when this happened with us, we just say a joke, we laugh because you find funny. But when you know at the back of your mind that I'm not remembering because of this problem, it brings a different, you know, a different understanding. You just don't say, oh, you know, I forgot again. I believe it's harder for you to take in, you know. And even as we were talking about share with others that you have that problem, although it's something that anyone might have, is something that we have been seeing by the researchers, millions of people are being affected, but I believe still is something that some people might find hard to share with others.
Yeah, you know. What you said is spot on, because for some people, and it's happened to me as well. I kind of sometimes, the word will not come. And I will be like, oh my God, what am I trying? And it's frustrating for me because it's kind of like, what's happening with me? I never used to be like that. Not to say that I'm battling dementia or anything, but when that happens and when people laugh, it means people really don't identify with what you're going through, right? For them, it's a funny situation, but for you, it's a terrifying situation. And moreover, when you kind of think, this is just the beginning, it's going to get worse from here onwards. Like, you know, I'm going to lose more than just words. I'm going to lose memories of my family. I'm going to lose memories of my surroundings. So that may be scary, and that may be something that you don't want to introduce people who won't sympathize with you. Again, I would kind of give the advice of being candid and open with your family, because once people understand things from your perspective, so for example, if someone laughs, not to make a big deal of it, but later on pull them aside and say, remember when I couldn't remember that word and you laughed? I get it. I totally get why it's funny, and maybe for someone else as well. If I were in someone else's shoes, it would be funny as well. But for me, this means, or for me, this highlights a fear that I'm having to deal with. So make people understand, while you still can, how things affect you. Be candid, be open with people, and don't expect them to just get it from not
educating each other as you go along. With the situation.
I did think it was interesting that he had some strategies that he tried to put in place for her, like texting, phoning. You know, he was trying to give her things to help prompt her memory. And I think that's quite interesting. With all the technology that we have these days, I think there's going to be things that could be used to help prompt your memory, things you can use to help you to remember.
It's funny you saw that in that bit of clip. What I saw in that bit of clip was he seemed even a bit over-possessive to her. A bit, you know, where we say, we're here for you, we're going to take care of you. But she seemed like he was taking too much care of her. For her, it was like, I just went for a jog, for goodness sake, you know. So we can, like, even though, you know, we care for that person, we can over-care for that person as well.
So we have to see how far they want to go.
Not to be overbearing and respect their boundaries, right? So we have another clip to kind of help us understand more of this situation.
Hey, are we still going running?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, look. Look, I found this photo album with these pictures of my mother and my sister. Hey, When are you going to the conference?
Monday.
And when is Lydia coming?
Lydia's coming on Sunday.
Okay.
Are we going running?
Yes. Yes, we are. I just have to go pee. I'll be right back.
Allie?
I couldn't find the bathroom.
It's okay, baby. Come on, let's get you cleaned up.
Who are you?
That's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, that was
Very
terrifying.
Very scary.
So, ladies, what part of your memory would you be most afraid of losing?
I would have to say it's the mind. It's looking at that clip. She can actually see herself losing her mind. She's got no control. You know, as she said, you know, sometimes if you've got cancer or you lose a limb, you can get a what's the word? Prosthetic arm or a leg, and you know, but with your mind. It's just going. It's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
I think, as she said, the mind, this agony that you are there, you are looking, you know you are in your house, but you don't know. For example, someone says, "Oh, go then take this," and as the person goes, what I'm doing here? What do I have to do here? Or in her case, what is the bathroom? Inside my house. So it's very, very scary, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, go on, Kim.
No, I was thinking, you said which part, what memory you'd be afraid to lose the most. I think you're knowing who your family is. The people you've known all your life, your husband, your children. You know, getting up one day and not knowing who they are. It's like that part of you is gone. I think that's terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Sorry, but which part do you remember that you don't remember? Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and that's the scary bit. I was going to give an analogy. It kind of is like you, for example, waking up. I mean, if you kind of think, you still have your memory, so it might be kind of hard for you to imagine not understanding your surroundings and not understanding going to the toilet and knowing where the toilet is. But kind of imagine yourself literally going to sleep in a house that you're familiar with and waking up in the morning in a different house in China with family that you don't know. You kind of like, that's the sensation you would experience, because you'd be like, who are you?
Yeah.
Where do I go for the bathroom? Everything would be unfamiliar. So you would be a stranger in your own life, in your own surroundings, in your own family. And that's pretty scary. That's really very alarming. Anyway, we're going to take a short break, but don't go away, as we'll be back with an interview with Felicity, who's a filmmaker for the Startup of the Year 2016 My Life Films, and more exciting discussion about this topic.
This program is brought to you by UCKG. This program is brought to you by UCKG.
Welcome back. On today's show, Alzheimer's Epidemic, we've been discussing the effect of dementia and Alzheimer's, both on the sufferers and their families. And joining us in the studio today is documentary filmmaker Felicity Mangovan. Welcome, Felicity.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So happy to have you on the show. So you're part of My Life's Films. Can you tell us a little bit about your project and how you got involved in it?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a documentary filmmaker, and last year I was commissioned to make an 8-part series about the charity My Life Films. And My Life Films makes films for people living with dementia about their life, so they're called life story films. And it's a celebration of the person's life with dementia, because quite often when you get a dementia diagnosis, your whole focus and also your family's focus turns to that. And so the point of sort of My Life Films is to come in and just celebrate that person's life from start to where they are now, and just remember, you know, all the things that they've achieved and where they've got to.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you've mentioned that, because we were talking through the break that what we've been discussing sounds so gloomy and so terrifying, and is there any positivity that we can draw out of it? So I love the fact that you focus on celebrating people's lives and focus on what's been positive in that person's life, instead of, you know, looking at the gloomy aspects of the disease. And let's take a look at this clip that will show us a little bit of the work of My Life Films.
Derek is a renowned pilot with a passion for everything aeronautical. He has flown hundreds of types of planes and gliders, and has been invited all over the world as a lecturer. Things aren't very easy for them anymore. Derek has dementia. He's finding it increasingly difficult to remember things, like the date, where he's been, or what he's been talking about.
Memory's gone. I never know the day. Probably say, what day is it today again to you just after you talked. It's embarrassing, that's all. It's a nuisance.
My Life Films gives something to Derek that he can hold on to, a film about his life story.
Good morning. Hello, Derek. Very nice to meet you.
The team visit people at home or at their care home and start collecting their memories by going through old photograph albums and memorabilia. Derek absolutely comes to life when he is asked about his first memory of being in a plane and serving in the RAF during the war.
This is going to be very valuable in the future. You know, if I'm around, I can set the DVD for him to be able to relive his past.
Wow, that's lovely. It kind of brings back what you were saying, Kim, about using technology somehow to make this life easy. And you guys are proving how we can do that. And you know, keeping your memories and keeping film and keeping photographs of your memories, putting them together for your family member is such a wonderful idea, because if they ever find themselves in that situation, like we mentioned, where they're kind of lost, that could be like a navigation system through their lives, and they can be able to make sense of their lives. I love that.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, why do you think memories are so important?
Yeah, well, I think there's a few reasons why they're so important, but ultimately they make us who we are. You know, all of our memories and our experiences in the past make us who we are today. But I also think it's really important for family members to, you know somebody's past experiences, because it just can make you appreciate that person. And yeah, I think it's really important to share those memories and know who you're, you know, even your mother, your father, your grandparents. You don't necessarily talk about your whole life and the experiences that you've had. So I think it is really important for families and the person as well to go through their memories.
And Felicia, you deal with vulnerable people and their families. So how do you approach telling their stories in a sensitive way?
Yeah. Well, we obviously at the charity we have safeguarding policies, and we follow and we protect the person living with dementia, their family, and also our filmmakers. But ultimately, we're trying to tell a really positive story of that person and give the family something to remember and look back on and see the great achievements and the really happy moments of this person's life. So, you know, we approach each case differently anyway, always talking through the person living with dementia and their family, just to make sure they're happy with the final film and that there's, you know, nothing that they didn't want in it, or certainly things that we've left out that they may have wanted in it.
That's great. Felicity, I think you're doing a great job. You won Startup of the Year. How did you feel and how did you accomplish that?
Well, yeah, we were all really pleased. The charity was set up by a couple, Carolyn and Jörg Roth, 2.5 years ago, and they brought on one filmmaker to start it with them. And, you know, 2.5 years later, they've touched hundreds of people's lives, and they've won Startup Charity of the Year, which is amazing, and we were all so pleased. And I think it was a really nice moment for them as well to just realise that their hard work that they'd put in and their sort of dream of it, you know, was recognised.
So I'm a confessed geek, like I said. I'm always interested in the nitty-gritty things. And so can you please take us through the process of making the film, like from meeting the person to the end story, which is the film that you produce?
Yeah. So each new case that we get, there's a filmmaker is allocated to them, and there's 3 stages, and each stage is split up over different meetings, so as not to sort of overwhelm the person. And the first stage is just an initial meet and greet, and you get to know the person, and it's important that they feel comfortable around the filmmaker as well. And then the second stage is a really fun stage, so it's going through all the photos, which is also really fun for the family because you get down old trunks and you sort of find loads of different things, and there's photos are sometimes like over 100 years old, and people are trying to identify people in the photo. So that's really fun. And then we scan all the photos. And then stage 3 is the interview. So we either do an interview with the person living with dementia or with their family members or any friends. It's case-by-case thing, so it can change. And then the film is edited by the filmmaker. And then there's the kind of final stage, but it's not, you know, an official stage, but we have a premiere, so that's where all the family and friends come together.
Nice.
Yeah, and they watch the film, and there's a little celebration. There's a few nibbles and drinks and stuff, and that's the best moment of it because there's laughing, there's tears, there's questions as well, and there's like, oh my God, I didn't know that about you. How amazing! Or what was it like in Kenya in the 60s and stuff like that. So all sorts of things come up, and it's a really lovely moment.
Yeah, I can identify with that sort of celebration because I've been through it personally on a different level. My father died when I was four months old, so I never really got to have like living memories of my dad. And everything that I know of, and fortunately for me, there was a lot documented about him. Everything that I know of is seen films that were made of him, documentations, books that he's written, and photos of what he's been through. So that kind of you know, puts you in a place where you were not a part of. So I can imagine how gratifying it is for family members to kind of celebrate that with their relatives.
And yeah, and also one thing that I really like that you brought to us today is that we were very scary with everything that we were seeing and all the news and so on, and to see a positive point, to see something that brings happiness. You see, we are almost at the end of the program, but it's much lighter because we can see a positive side. We can see that people can have good memories, they can enjoy the life they lived, see what they have done, the friends they have made. So it's something very positive, and I'm sure those who are watching us and maybe are going through this problem in their families, they can have like, yes, we can do something like that, isn't it? You don't need to focus on the problem. You can focus on so many good things around. It's really good.
And so
I was going to say, such a wonderful gift to give to someone.
That's
because
true.
people in general, their lives are interesting. You know, finding where people have been and how they reached to where they are now, and to be able to get that into, you know, your own personal film. I think that's such an amazing gift to give someone.
That's
so
true.
wonderful.
yeah, and you know, watching Derek on the clip, he was kind of talking about the difficult moments, but even so, he was still smiling.
Yeah.
So that I think this project highlights a lot of positivity, and maybe, you know, you can't handle all the families in the world. They can't all come to you to make a film for them, but that's an idea that you can do for yourself. And you know, today people are, they're technology wizards, right? They're very good with technology, so you can use that technology to kind of produce your own film for your family. Do something special, celebrate your family member who's going through Alzheimer's or dementia in a positive way, in a nice way. Remember what they've been through, in their lives. And now I'm saying all of this, but you're the one with all the experience. So
it's true.
what advice would you give to them if they're thinking, oh yeah, I want to do this? What can they look for? Don't give away your trade secrets, but what can they look forward to creating an interesting film?
Well, I think it's important as well because when people are living with dementia, you know, everything changes. So your whole attention changes and your ability to sort of process stuff changes. So it is important as well that the films that you put together are edited in a really slow pace. And if you use a lot of photographs and that they're personal photographs, it has a really big impact on the person because it really stimulates them, and it is something that they are familiar with because it is from their life. So, you know, use as many photographs as you can of that person and from their life, like personal photos. And, you know, if you make the photographs last, like we put the photographs up for 7 seconds, just because it gives you that bit more time to process.
It gives them time for their mind to process it.
Exactly, yeah. And we in the films that we make, we don't overload on interviews. We very much do tell the story through the photographs. And also music. So the music that we use in the films are all music that's personal to the person. So whether it was like music that they listened to when they were younger, it's, you know, that's what we use, and that really stimulates people, and it also like calms their mood and improves their mood as well.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm now feeling inspired to go make a film about myself and my family members, even though we have nothing, kind of like we're not facing dementia. But yeah, it's just about a celebration of life. You've actually inspired me to kind of put my memories together in a film. I think I'm going to try that project. Like I said, I'm a geek. I'm always curious about things. I always have to try things once, and I'm going to try this. I'm not promising to share, but I'm going to try it. Thank you, Felicia, for such an informative bit of our, and a positive as well bit of our show. You've contributed so much, and I think there's a lot for you guys to kind of process, and we wish you well with your projects, and may you discover many, many more interesting stories, and we'll keep up with your work. All right?
Thank you.
So we're going to continue with the topic, but before we do that, we're going to take a break.
This program is brought to you by UCKG. This program is brought to you by UCKG.
Welcome back. For those of you who don't know who I am Jessica Ann, celebrity stylist and image consultant. May I share a quick story with you? When I was in my early teens to mid-20s, my sister and I used to spend a lot of time caring for our grandparents and an uncle. Quite often felt worn down, and to a certain degree unloved, as there was no one there to support us. And we realised when you're caring for other people, it is very easy to forget to take care of ourselves. Luckily for me, it's amazing just how much can be cured by a little style therapy. Even if you're just making daily trips to the hospital, you can do it in style. I would love to show you what colours can do for you to really brighten up your mood. This capsule wardrobe is inspired by happiness, adding pops of yellow so you can create your own sunshine. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. Jess, I don't suit yellow. There are other alternatives. What I'm hoping for you to take away is to inject colour into your wardrobe, as when it's worn near your face, you can change your mood and change your state in an instant. Let's take a look at how you could use the power of colour, from casual to business, creating an energized and at-peace perception, not only for yourself, but for others around you. Have you heard of the saying, place your oxygen mask on before you assist others? I like to think of that as ensuring you take care of yourself first. No matter what life throws at you, dressing well gives you confidence. It makes you look and feel great, and it sets the tone for your mood. Those were my style tips for this week, ladies. I hope you inject some colour into your wardrobe from now on.
I completely agree, Jessica. Color into your wardrobe makes all the difference. Look at Diane's color. Look at Hakel's color. Loving it. They were all cheering us in the studio. Like, no, literally, it lights up the mood. When I saw Hakel, I was like, oh, I'm feeling much happier now. Because you've got such a happy outfit, isn't it? So color does make a difference. Good one there, Jessica. So guys, today we gave a lot of tips, preventative measures, or tips for alleviating symptoms of dementia, but there were some that we wanted to add that we couldn't get in our first segment. So you guys have each a tip to give to our viewers who are struggling with and want to alleviate the symptoms, or who want to prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. So go ahead.
I want to talk about being stressed out, and it's something that we need to look at in our daily lives. Now, there's little tips that we can do to help prevent us from getting stressed out. For example, look at your breathing, especially when you get stressed. Take deep breaths and think before you say anything. Because sometimes when we stress, we'll say things that we probably wouldn't like to do. And schedule daily relaxation. Look at your day and find out when there's going to be a spot when you can just take it easy and have some me time. And nourish your inner peace. That's looking at mind, body and soul. Do the things that work for you. Some people it's their faith, some people it's yoga. Look at the things that are best for you. And make fun a priority. We don't have enough fun. There's always so many things that stress us out. And look at things that are fun. And keep your sense of humor.
Sometimes one thing I was noticing throughout this program is that while we were focusing on the problem, on the situation, I don't know if you guys felt, but it was a bit heavy to take in. But in the moment we got to see the positive sides, in the moment you see opportunities to give to others, it made even the environment lighter. So, for example, when you have an opportunity, or you search for opportunities to volunteer yourself, go for charities, go to, places where you can meet people, where you can get to know, people's projects, what's going on out there, when you get to know your neighbors, when you don't just live your life inside your house, doing your things. Not that it's bad, but maybe, all the time, this can kind of increase the possibility of you feeling, oh, there is nothing else I can do, my life is how it is, there is nothing positive coming along the way. So I believe you having an active social life, going out, going shopping, going to the park, seeing people around. Sometimes, as I said, going to a place where you can see people's problems and you say, wow, it's not only me going through that, I can also help her, I can give a positive word to someone. So I believe this active social life can help a lot.
And that relates to preventing dementia and Alzheimer's, kind of like preventing the risk, reducing the risk. But I think that is advice as well for someone who is a carer of someone who's going through Alzheimer's or suffering with Alzheimer's or dementia. It kind of like, do not forget your social life. And sometimes I know that if you're a carer, your social life cannot exist outside of your family member, because you can't leave them alone while you go have fun. Like, hello, I'm going to leave him or her alone while I go for a party. But think of social activities that you can do together. Because if there's one thing that Felicity's message has kind of resonated in me, is that life doesn't end, life needs to be celebrated. So you can go and walk in the park together, things that wouldn't kind of overwhelm them as well, but will get you out of your natural environment and will just give your brain time to relax and focus on other things. I think that's very important.
Yeah. I touched on a few of these topics earlier, but I think stimulating your brain is really important. To do puzzles, learn something new. One of the things that I liked here was be a detective. So, think about it, try and solve the problem. You're using your brain, basically, and the puzzle side of things is really good. The number puzzles, is it Sudoku? Sudoku and crosswords and things like that. It really helps you to think, basically, to keep your mind active. And if you haven't always got someone to go out with you, like you're saying, those sort of things in the house, you're still doing something to stimulate your mind. So I think that's really important.
I'm such a huge fan of that because that's how I have fun. People think, what's your hobby? How do you have fun? Oh, I watch movies. I play Sudoku. I play puzzles. When people are on the phone, I'm like, Tetris is my thing. We have this new one as well. I'm not going to advertise because my producers are going to kill me. It's this new game that I'm absolutely hooked on, and it's just about figuring things and it's kind of like a puzzle game.
Yeah.
That's something that I love, and I have to admit, it just boosts your brain. Sometimes I'll be so tired, and then when I think I'm tired, my brain is falling asleep. What can I do? Brain stimulation just wakes you up, and so I think that's a very good preventative measure.
You know, if I would go through that one day and, let's say, lose my ability to communicate with people, I would love to have their support, you know, as we said before, people understanding what I was going through, also me having the patience to make others understand what I was going through. So I believe that for me, this kind of support from family and friends would be very helpful.
For me, sorry, Kim.
It's okay, darling.
For me, it would be to let my family know that my independence is really important to me. Not going off the subject too much, but I had lost my independence at once when I was very sick, so I know how it feels to actually lose my independence. So I would ask them before, you know, help me to keep my independence as long as I can. That would be that for me.
And the thing is, imagine what it's like losing your mental abilities and how vulnerable that can make you feel. And I think it's really important that people help you to remember your identity and your self-worth. For example, like what Felicity was teaching us, just helping you to remember who you are. I think that's important.
Yeah, as we can tell, you guys spoke from the point of view of someone who would need caring, but I'm going to address myself to the carer as well, because you are a huge part of the equation, and it's a huge responsibility to take on. And so in order for you to do well with that responsibility, I think you kind of preparing yourself for it is the best that you can do. So, you know, let's not do the naive thing of pushing it aside and kind of expecting it to all work out, but do the best you can to make yourself fit to be a support, to be someone's support, a supporter of someone, right, who's going through dementia. And that's really by you taking very good care of yourself. So you're going to need help as well. Make sure that you have, you know, a support system of your own where you can go and just talk about the frustrations that you face with caring for someone. Don't feel guilty, for example, when things overwhelm you and have to deal with that in a frustrated way and allow their frustration to just eat you up inside. But have a support group of your own where you can let out your own frustrations, let out your own fear, because in order for you to help someone, you better take care of yourself as well and take good care of yourself as well. So don't forget yourself is my conclusion. And thank you so much for listening. And you've heard our thoughts. Now, as I always say, we want to hear yours. We want to hear what you have to say. So share your thoughts with us on Twitter, on Facebook, or by emailing us at comments@dkw.me or help@dkw.me. And join us next week for another fabulous episode, as our producer says, fabulous episode of A Different Kind of Woman.
This program is brought to you by UCKG.